Well, let's continue with our public hearing. Alan. Thank you, Chairman. I think it's time to proceed to part 3. First of all, I want to refer to 3.15. In 3.15, it said that in October 2014, the SWT informed Audit that it would improve the allocation, matching, and admission of CCS places by implementing with effect from November 2014 similar measures as those to be adopted for RCS. These include, among others, the issue of notification to CCS service providers to remind them of the need to timely report discharge of service users to the SCNAMO (ES) and to require written explanations from them for overdue replies and belated notification on discharge of service users. Earlier on, the Director did touch on this point. Can we be informed of the progress that has been made so far? What's the latest development in this regard? Director, we have enhanced the mechanism to ensure that the reception and the handover and referral services can be conducted more efficiently. In October, we inform all CCS service providers, to remind them that whenever or inform them of the time limits for various procedures. As long as there is a discharge of service users, they should inform us immediately. And as I've said earlier on, we have introduced a notification procedure. Once a notification is received by us, we would issue a confirmation of receipt of notification to the service provider. We also would take follow-up action closely, and that is in relation to the reminder system. If we don't receive the information from the service provider, we would issue a reminder in 7 days, and then after another 7 days, we would issue another reminder to ascertain the outcome of the service allocation exercise. Director, how confident are you about the effectiveness of these new measures? And what kind of a time frame you have in mind for the measures' effectiveness to be realized? Well, we need to deploy people to closely monitor all the processes. That's what we want to do after we have been given the audit findings. And the service providers have also been reminded of the need to closely follow the system. What we need is to have sufficient manpower so that full attention can be paid to all the cases. I think the NGOs like us would take the necessary follow-up action in the wake of this report. I hope we are beginning to see the effects of the new measure, because we are all concerned about this audit report. Within the administration and outside, all the stakeholders have been attaching a lot of importance to this. We have taken some follow-up action which we believe will be effective. Chairman, in regard to the compliance with the service SWD manual, there have been problems. We have heard from the director what would happen to follow up. Can you tell us more about your manpower, the manpower you're going to deploy to ensure that the RCHEs would follow what are required under the manual? You need manpower to do that, right? Do you have sufficient manpower, director? Or perhaps the secretary? You don't have to look at the secretary, just tell us the answer. The secretary has been most sympathetic. If we are to take more closely monitor the processes, well, we need more man hours. We need more people. If manpower is lacking, we can ask for an increase of manpower through an established mechanism in the government. We have to make sure that there are sufficient people to take the necessary action on a timely basis. Maybe I should put my question more directly. There has been a shortage of manpower. Otherwise, we won't have the situation described in paragraphs 3.8 to 3.13. So I can boldly assume that you are suffering from a shortage of manpower, and you might as well take this opportunity of the hearing of the PAC to ask the secretary to say something. So what's your observation, secretary? There must be a lack of sufficient manpower. Otherwise, we wouldn't have some gaps, some shortfall in the compliance of the SWD guidelines. Chairman, maybe they should tell us whether they need a bigger funding. Is money the problem, secretary? Of course, we would review the procedure and ascertain the difficulties in ensuring compliance with the manual. If a manpower shortage is a problem, we would do our best to secure sufficient manpower. We need to gauge the objective environment first. But what's your conclusion? Is it due to a lack of manpower? Manpower can be one of the factors, but maybe not the only factor. We have taken an objective look at this. I would say that it's all due to manpower. Well, that's the manual, but the manual is not adhered to. Is it because they were lazy or what? Or maybe the director and her colleagues have been doing the best. So shouldn't you agree that manpower is a big factor? You've provided them with additional manpower of 9 people, right? Mr. Leung asks whether you agree that manpower is a big problem. Of course, with more people doing this, the problem won't be as big. So manpower must be a major reason. We're not asking you for any manpower increase, but we want you to look into this and take measure to rectify the situation. This is just an observation. It's not yet our conclusion. According to the Secretary, manpower is not the only reason, but of course, with more hands, it's of course helpful in implementing the SWD manual. So the Secretary has agreed that is one of the reasons. There's no need to confirm that is just the only reason. I'm inclined to advise the PAC to put forth this recommendation to the administration that the manpower should be increased in regard to the implementation of the SWD manual. You have no objection about this, I suppose? No objection. Next, I want to talk about the pilot CCS voucher scheme, which has been tried out for more than a year now. The service recipients are not very keen about this. And now we have 300 odd elderly participants who have had their vouchers withdrawn. Has SWD drawn any lesson from this trial scheme? Why it has been less than satisfactory? And where do the problems lie? And have you taken any targeted measures to respond? Director, concerning the pilot CCS voucher scheme, according to the report, some 180 participants have not used the vouchers 3 months after the vouchers were issued. Well, the vouchers have not been voided, but this is a new concept. The voucher scheme is new, and I would try to explain to the elderly participants whenever I have a chance to meet them. It takes time for them to understand this. And we have also tried to enhance the understanding of the case workers. And the case workers have been asked to contact these elderly participants to further explain how they can use the vouchers. As for those who have had vouchers issued but have not commenced using the vouchers, well, actually, if they haven't done so, after a month, we would contact them one by one. They understand that this is beneficial to them. There are 300 odd participants who have not used their vouchers. 91 of them have started using the voucher services. We hope the elderly participants would take the first step and give it a try, and they understand what can be covered under the scheme. This is what we have done so far. Chairman, well, I'm concerned about this scheme because the Secretary, in his opening remarks, said that if the money follow the service recipient concept is implemented effectively, then this concept can be further expanded. But if this expanded to cover residential services, so I'm concerned about how well the pilot CCS voucher scheme has gone. Because Secretary, you want to extend this money follow the service recipient concept to residential services. We're talking about new mode of subvention. But the CCS voucher scheme is about community services. It's different from homes. Residential services is more straightforward. You just choose the home you want to enroll. But for community services, there are many combinations of different categories of services. So there's more. There's the need to give them more time to get the concept accepted. So the two services are not directly related. We have asked the Southpole, the elderly study unit of Hong Kong U to look into the assessment. When can we have the findings of the Hong Kong U study? When can you present them to the welfare panel of this council for discussion? Secretary, well, at the appropriate time, we will certainly do this. The study is in an advanced stage, but they still need some more time. I think it's about June next year, when we would return to the welfare services panel for a report. Maybe I can defer to Paul. Well, there are only 3 of us. Maybe you should finish your questioning first. This is the general picture we have now. If you want these elderly people to age in place, you must provide appropriate community services. If it's neither here nor there, these elderly people would have to get a place in a home. But the waiting list is so long, and many elderly people pass away while waiting. You must give this council a clearer sense of direction under your policy. On page 53, 3.26, the audit has done something for us through its audit. It's noted that in 2001, 2003, 2011, 3 different services were launched, and you can refer to Table 2 for the 3 services. First, EHCCS, launched in April 2001, IHCS, launched in April 2003, and the latest one, Pilot Scheme on Home Care Services for Frail Elders, launched in March 2011. As I observed, they have got various schemes covering everything, but not in an in-depth manner. Is there room for consolidation here, so that the service recipients, the elders, that is, would get more efficient and effective services? Can you give some thought to this, Director? We do have a scheme. We do have a plan to consolidate the schemes. If I may refer members to Table 2, those schemes are about providing home care services for frail elders. For the third one, it was a pilot scheme under the Lotteries Fund. Through the pilot scheme, well, actually the pilot scheme would end in February 2015. We do plan to combine this with the first one, the EHCCS. So consolidation would be for the 2 first. As for the second one, IHCS. Actually, 2 services are provided. On the one hand, we provide services to frail elders, and also we provide a service to non-frail elders, normal cases, by providing home cleansing and meal delivery services. So they take care of different categories. So we are also considering whether there's also room for consolidation here. But we have to be careful that for the ordinary cases, those recipients only expect home cleansing and meal delivery services. So the service direction might be a bit different. So we will cover this in our review as well.
According to the director, you do have plans that when necessary you will try to consolidate the schemes to enhance efficiency. That's something you would do, right? If it enhances efficiency. Chairman, can the director share papers with the members on how they can consolidate the different caring schemes for CCS, and from a cost effectiveness perspective, they can hence be more efficient. Is that okay, Director? Yes, that's all I want to ask. Paul? Ellen asked a few questions about the CCS voucher scheme and why are so few people using the vouchers. And in Table 2, it seems that only frail elders can benefit. So we are looking at a lot of names, but the nature of these services are basically the same. So when you first came up with such schemes, why didn't you just have one scheme and have a progressive number of places? But instead, you were launching one scheme after another. Does it make the schemes more appealing for the general public? They might not understand the differences between the different schemes. So what do you have to say, Chairman? We noticed that elderly care services are varied, and we have received comments from different members and panels, and we are constantly experimenting with new schemes. But the modes of operations are rather different. And for the home care services, it's operating on the contract mode. And we want to introduce competition in the trade. And as such, service providers have to bid for services. So that's a new mode for us. And for IHCS, it has a long history. And we are using a subvention model, and a lot of these cases are rather typical. And for the pilot scheme on home care services for frail elders, we have 300 places, and we want to experiment with helping elderly people with severe health problems, and we want to provide home care support. And we found that it can be merged with the EHCCS, so it's still a pilot scheme, and we do have a number of pilot schemes, as you may know from the welfare panel, and we want to trial different schemes before consolidating them with our mainstream programs. So right now, it seems that there are a lot of names being thrown around, but actually they target different types of people. They have different needs. So we'd like to thank the Audit Commission for raising this issue. I think there's room for consolidation with mainstream schemes. Chairman, perhaps everyone is a bit tired since this meeting started in the morning. Well, of course, we encourage innovation, but at the same time, we hope that each scheme is complete in itself. But we saw today that a lot of schemes are unsatisfactory in terms of enrollment rate. So, is there a lack of balance while you are innovating? The execution or monitoring is not up to scratch, and yet you keep coming up with new ideas. So as Ellen said, each scheme is lacking. So when are you going to perform a holistic review to identify what kind of improvement are required? Can you simplify things in order to avoid confusion? Director, that's a good suggestion. If we identify room for consolidation, we will do it. Whenever we trial a new program or scheme, we do remember that we are the gatekeeper. For new schemes, we would follow up even more closely on the execution and the logistics. But as I mentioned, we face challenges. For instance, we might not be able to contact the family members of the applicants, or perhaps they might change their mind on at the last minute, and some elders might have preferences on the specific RCHE. So we do need to review the details. Paul mentions a holistic review of all the schemes. It's not about bits and pieces. I understand that you are facing a lot of challenges, but yet a lot of people are not able to get the resources they need or services they need. The resource allocation is not satisfactory. His question was about a strategic review of all the schemes, Secretary. Let me just add a few points. I want to address Mr. Chair's question. We do have a comprehensive and clear overall plan. In March next year, we will increase the number of places. Home care places will increase it to 1,500. And the third column, you can see we will consolidate the main items of the schemes, and EHCCS will be incorporated into the pilot scheme of home care services. We have $172 million. It has been granted already. We have a clear direction. And the comments from the Audit Commission were actually timely, which allowed us to improve the entire policy. As Ellen Leung mentioned, the study by HKU is still pending. It's not completed yet, right? It's underway. It will be wrapped up in January next year, and we will report it to the PAC, and we'll listen to comments in order to further improve the study. I think we are probably done with this part. If members have no other questions, can we move on to part 4 rather, on the residential care services. When we look at 4.2 and 4.3, the paragraphs 4.2 and 4.3, the nature of the services are rather different. And would these differences lead to high vacancy rates? Director. Chairman, under paragraph 4.2, under the table, it's something to do with the different types of RCHEs. First, subvented RCHEs, and they provide subvented places. And the second type is contract RCHEs, and it's similar to the home care services I mentioned just now. They are run on contract basis, and this includes private care homes, and they would have to bid for the contracts. And we hope to introduce more competition in the trade and allow private care homes to provide subvented places. And the goal is to enhance the service quality in private care homes. Type C, private RCHEs. We also want to enhance the service standard in private RCHEs, and some places are bought, and the entire RCHEs would have to be improved to a specific standard. And they are self-financing Type E self-financing RCHEs. After some rounds of discussion, we felt necessary to preserve this kind of RCHEs for elders who could afford it. We are trying to provide more options to the elders. For those who are less off, they can apply for subvented places, and for those who can afford it, they can apply for self-financing RCHEs. And overall, the goal is to enhance service standards at private care homes, and we also want to maximize the available places in order to help those on the central waiting list. So I'd like to look at Figure 3. It seems to be, when I look at subvented versus non-subvented RCHEs, in terms of average floor space per person, it's very different for subvented and non-subvented RCHEs. And does the problem have to do with vacancy rates? And by law, the qualities of different RCHEs are different. And this is connected to the different levels of subsidies provided by the government. And for subvented RCHEs, the average floor space is 17.5 square meters. The manpower requirements also higher. Same for contract RCHEs. We want to maximize the places available at private care homes, but then they face a lot of restraints in terms of floor area. So we would assess the market situation and manpower demands, and we have lowered our requirements by a little bit. But that said, we would still secure a fair level of service, and we have taken reference from similar care homes in the market, and we want to maximize the resources. For boards places, the resources are different than that of subvented RCHEs. Of course, in 4.13 and 4.15, the government had not done any reviews for more than 10 years. Do you have any plans to carry out a review? By law, we establish a minimum standard or minimum requirements for private RCHEs. We have a stipulation on the minimum floor space per person. For board places, we hope that they can do better than the minimum requirement. But why did we not enhance the standard requirements across the board? Different types of RCHEs entertain different people, and some elders have not undertaken central assessment, and they would choose cheaper private RCHEs since they are still rather healthy. So we chose not to increase the requirements across the board, and because we see that different elders in Hong Kong have different needs, and a lot of people in private RCHEs have not carried out central health assessment. Under paragraph 4.32, and some contraventions were found for 34 RCHEs. And were there any common trends identified in these contraventions? How many are repeat offenders? And what measures will you take to improve the situation? Perhaps Ms. Lee can talk about the corrective actions. We carry out surprise inspections regularly, and when we identify issues relating to good practice, we would issue advice to RCHEs for fundamental problems. For example, staff shortage, we would issue warnings immediately. And if we identify restraints in caring services, if they are not up to scratch, we would according to Section 19, we will issue warnings requiring them to make immediate improvements. If the relevant RCHEs do not improve according to Section 19, we would issue prosecutions. And the number of successful prosecutions in the last 5 years have reached 35. And the main ordinances contravened include problems with staff records, and according to Section 19 of the RCHE ordinance, some care homes did not carry out the mitigation measures required, and 35 of them were prosecuted, and they were involved in 46 contraventions, and they are to do with lack of manpower, the use of medicine, and other contraventions. Our inspectors include nurses and social workers. They would issue advices or warnings. Were there a lot of repeat offenders? Or did you find that the law is inadequate, or that the law enforcement is inadequate, which encourage certain RCHEs to repeatedly offend the requirements? We have carried out risk assessment. If some for RCHEs with bad records, we would carry out more inspections under the assessment mechanism, and naturally there will be more prosecutions. We didn't see cases in which some RCHEs we didn't see any RCHEs which are not discouraged by penalties or prosecutions, because this is all about reputation. If they have a bad name, then everyone would know that they had been prosecuted, and the prosecution records are published online. It's very open, the information, and we would retain the records for a specific time frame, so the public can easily secure such information. So I think this is actually an incentive for private RCHEs to keep improving themselves. On the other hand, we carry out regular inspections by our nurses and social workers. They would issue advices and recommendations, and we would remind them that we have a code of practice that they should follow. At the same time, we work with the Department of Health to carry out joint operations. They have an outreach team for elders. They would visit RCHEs to remind elders of issues like infection control or the control of contagious diseases. They hope to help the RCHEs to better look after their audits?
I
want to know more about the penalty. What is the level of penalty actually? The director or the deputy director? I mentioned earlier. First of all, we issue warnings. We give advice and then we issue warnings. And then finally we prosecute. That's about the private homes, private RCHEs. They don't receive any subsidy. If it's a board place RCHE, and if we issued a warning, we have cut the place's board. Cutting the place's board is done when the usage rate doesn't reach our level required. And we also cut the number of places bought under the EBPS. If you cut their places, they will have less income. Then the service will decline further. Those living there will suffer then. Why you do that? Either you relocate the inmates or improve the conditions. As for a RCHE, if we give an advice or we give a warning, we will step up our inspection. We keep an eye on whether they make any improvement. We hope that they can improve their investment, that we improve their service, and we don't want the RCHE to close down. We keep a close watch on the standard of care to see whether it is up to our requirement. We adopt a risk management approach. We step up our inspection on this kind of RCHEs. And finally, now, I believe you impose a fine on them. Is it just scratching the surface? Will it be just a small amount? Ms. Lee, it is the decision of the court. The penalty is mainly in terms of fine, and I've come across a case in which a staff member was penalized. I don't know whether you have information on the amount of fine, so that we know whether they just counted part of the operating cost. Is it decided by the court? I just want to know the fines arising from the prosecuted cases. We do have records. We have the number of successful prosecutions, and we can provide the information to the member. Mr. Wang Yongman. Thank you, Chairman. We are on residential care, issue number 3. I have chosen several questions. 4.10, 4.11. 420 don't participate in the enhanced board place scheme. They can only reach the minimum requirement. These private RCHEs have to pay a very high rent. They have a high vacancy rate. The cost of operation is high, and the cost is transferred to the clients. The elderly cannot afford. This is a lose-lose situation that causes wastage. Quality of service and standard of quality of service and service standards cannot be solved by value for money study. The administration should consider solving the problem by policy tools. Now, the SWD issued 284 warning letters. how many RCHEs are involved with regard to the 284 warning letters. Maybe one RCHE receives 3 or 4 warnings. Now you issue 280 warning letters to how many RCHEs. We will then know how general and serious the problem is. Yes, the director, please. You know which paragraph? Do you know which paragraph? Yes, the number of letters in the past 5 years. We have the number, but we will provide information after the meeting. That's very important. We want to know the seriousness of the matter. In 4.14, paragraph 4.14, the SWD will review the statutory minimum requirements from time to time, and any proposal to introduce major change must be fully justified and must have the support of stakeholders and the community at large. Does it mean that raising the statutory minimum requirement will increase costs and will lead to the close down of RCHEs in large numbers, and therefore you do not do it? You just keep reviewing the situation. Have you ever considered changing the law to raise the requirements? In fact, I have answered a similar question before. The private RCHEs are meeting the needs of different types of elderly people. Some of the elderly have not gone through the physical examination or assessment, but they still need a place to stay. This ordinance provides the minimum requirement. And some RCHEs which charge a lower fee accommodate elderly people who have not gone through any physical examination or assessment. Through the board place scheme, we set standards higher than what is required by the law. Say in the board place scheme, the RCHEs have a higher manning ratio and higher spatial requirement. And subvented homes have even higher requirements. And that is, of course, related to subvention. For subvented homes, a subvented place is about $9,500 per person. For a contracted home, that is about $13,600. For a subvented nursing home, it's more than $14,000. Or rather, subvented RCHE, that's more than $14,000. So it's really a different standard of requirements. Now, you say that if any change of law will require full justification, and you can give many reasons. And you also have to get the support of the stakeholders and the community at large. If you are to make a substantial change and raise the requirements, will that raise costs leading to the folding up of RCHEs in large numbers and cutting supply substantially? Yes, that will be the result. We set the minimum requirement in the law. If we substantially raise the requirements, then the impact will be that some of the RCHEs may not meet the demand and will have to fold up. Over the years, you cannot solve the problem of cost. In dealing with this matter, do you have any conclusion? Do you have any position? Will you increase the number? Will you increase the money for buying places or increase the number of subvented places? Thank you, Mr. Wong, for focusing on this succinctly. Now we hope that with the introduction of the service voucher, it will give flexibility. Now we have the restriction that family members cannot even add top up for a better service. So with voucher, we may be able to encourage the private homes. Now the cost is very high. you must give subvention, give subsidy, increase the amount of money given in the board play scheme. In paragraph 4.15, there is shortage of manpower. You allow them to import foreign worker. Starting from April 2014, imported care workers are allowed to serve the elderly residents. This helped to alleviate the staff shortage. You still have to seek the advice of the LAB. With the demand for service, the Audit Commission is of the view that the administration should try to find a solution at source. What is the target? The law requires one health worker for 30 residents, and also a nurse. So have you considered the shortage of nurses as well? We are also the labor. I'm the Secretary for Labor and Welfare. Now the frontline care workers or health workers, we have 2,830 foreign workers and 1,400 are the health workers or care workers. They work in the private RCHEs. Now, if we have in fact relaxed the control for board place RCHEs, we allow them to import workers. During SARS, we did not allow that. Now we have opened the door. We have dealt with it flexibly. That is a gap. A 60-year-old worker may be caring for a 70-year-old resident. We have a youth scheme. We've obtained $147 million in our hands for 1,000 places. We have a pilot scheme. Last year, we spent $10 million from the lottery fund. We were afraid that young people wouldn't join the service. Now we can show them a career path. Now we have a course with the Open U. They work 44 hours, and they are paid $8,000. They get a community care certificate. They study for the community care course, and in the future they can become enrolled nurses. The response is very good, and we are able to provide 1,000 places. There is a strong demand. We also have enrolled nurses. As long as they work in the trade for 2 years, we will not charge them anymore. 1,000 or so. In fact, about 90% who went through the training have joined the service. We don't have enough OTs and PTs. We work with the Hong Kong U, and we increase the UGC funded places. We also have top-up degree courses, 37 for OT, and about 20 odd for OT, occupation therapy. The first group has graduated this year, and they will go into the RCHEs. They are recruited first and then trained. We pay the RCHEs. They know they've got a job. So when they study, they don't suffer from any pressure. After they've completed the course, they can go into the RCHE and get down to work. Software is very important. Now, one health worker, there must be the ratio is 30 residents per one health worker. Now, your training scheme, you encourage more young people to join the trade, just like the construction industry. You encourage young people to join in construction industry because you have a lot of infrastructure works. That is also that's related to the level of service of or quality of service of our CHEs. The government should subsidize this. Now, under 4.18, paragraph 4.18, that is something hard to accept. OCHs participating in EBPS have overall a rate of 95% and 91% respectively for EA1 and EA2. 3 less than 50% occupancy rate, 13 less than 80. Over the 2 financial years, some 550 to 590 of the 7,660 EPBS places purchased by the government remain vacant, and that cost $50 million per year. That was money thrown down the drain. Is the vacancy related to the location, or is it related to paragraph 3.12? Difficult to contact. The elderly has left Hong Kong. $50 million, mind you. According to the Audit Commission, which means that good value has not been realized for some $50 million spent a year. My word is the money thrown into the sea. The vacancy rate is low, some lower than 50%. I've already explained that. They are newcomers. They joined the scheme recently. We have to give them more time. And I've also said that there is a structural issue. The elderly have preferences. Whether they are willing to join the board place, RCHEs are the question. Or is the question. Only 5.9% on the CWL are willing to live in a RCHE in the EBPS, and the waiting time is just 7 months on average. In terms of manning ratio, in terms of space, the RCHEs in EBPS are less favorable in comparison with subvented homes. About 40% of the elderly have joined the EBPS. Now we have the reduction mechanism. That is a kind of a stick. If they cannot meet the enrollment rate, then we cut the number of places bought, and then we also ask for enhancement of service. We increase our pay for buying the places so that they can have more resources. We also raise EA2 to EA1 places. This will make elderly more willing to go to live in the EPBS. Now, in paragraph 4.25, there are 2 cases. They are self-financing homes. They are PTG, right? PTG. They pay a nominal premium. Basically, it's public funds subsidizing the homes. From 2007 until now, one institution has just get enrollment rate of 60 to 70%. Now you allow them to get land by a nominal premium. Is it decided by the director or the undersecretary or the policy secretary? After a decision is made, how does the administration follow the case up? Do you ask them to provide reports regularly, or do you send people there to conduct site inspections regularly? Now, you have given a piece of land to them with a nominal premium, and you don't check the enrollment level. How can that be?
Well, there are 2 issues. First, is the subvention wasted? Well, the member has referred to case number 3. We're talking about self-financing places, not subvented places. It's case 3. Why didn't we nominate people to get enrolled? Well, because when we give them a subvented place, the elder would need to pay a small sum. But here we're talking about non-profit making, self-financing places. So we do not nominate the maximum number of residents. And this is actually a remotely located RCHE. They didn't have it didn't have sufficient workers, so they have not been able to admit a sufficient number of residents. But these are non-profit making and self-financing places, so government subvention is not affected. But there is a shortage of places, and the sites have been granted on nominal premium. They're doing a lousy job, and some are even incurring loss, and you are not nominating persons to get admitted. There must be a problem before the Audit Commission look at this. You give them the resources, the land, and then the places are left vacant, and you don't nominate sufficient number of persons to get admitted. So that's a problem. Well, in this particular case, the location is so remote that not many people are willing to work there. So instead of a problem of proper supervision, we have to make sure that they have sufficient workers first. Even if we were to turn the self-financing places into the subvented places, we need to solve the manpower problem first. The sites are granted as under the Pt3 system. If we can turn some of the self-financing places into subvented places, we'll consider doing this. But we need to look at the manpower first. But before you gave them the land under the Pt3, didn't you ascertain that they would have the ability to run this LCHE? There must have been some assessment on their capability. Well, you can't just give them a remote site and leave them to their own devices. The Pt3 has to be approved by the Executive Council, and there must be justifications provided to the Executive Council why the site has to be granted to a private RCHE. In this particular case, when was the Executive Council approval granted? And well, I'm only referring to the procedure. But in this particular case, it could well be that they apply for the site under the procedure in the government. I will take a look at the procedure. Please let us know what you have found. I cannot tell you the name, but this RCHE is in a remote location. It's a temple, and some places are provided within the temple environment. I cannot tell you the name, but they care about the elderly, and they provide care to the elderly. But the site is so remotely located, they can't hire sufficient workers. What about the monks and the nuns? Well, but they are not workers. But you grant rented the land at a nominal premium. You must give careful thought before you do this. Otherwise, it's a waste of resources. 4.32. It said that there will be inspections. There will be a frequency of inspection adjusted based on the risk level of individual RCHEs, so that there will be a closer monitoring of high-risk RCHEs. This is by the licensing office. The licensing office has identified certain high-risk RCHEs. Have you, over the years, monitored these RCHEs? Are they run by field service providers? Has there been a shortage of manpower? Have you tried to find out the reasons why these are so risky? Many RCHEs have to pay high rent, and they face recruitment difficulties, and there are vacant places. If you are just picking the fault, instead of learning something from their experience and sharing the experience with other service providers in order to improve quality, you must try to find out the reasons of those risks or shortcomings. You must try to summarize the situation and do some collation of information. The assistant director, the licensing office is more concerned about care for the elderly, because private RCHEs are private businesses. We pay attention to quality of care, the manning ratio, and overall whether the code of practice has been complied with in providing care. Since these are commercial entities, under the law, we are not empowered to scrutinize their accounts. But you have to safeguard the interests of the residents. Yes, there are provisions that a certain documentation should be provided to the elderly resident or to their families, and they have to set out which items are subject to the charges and which are not. Such information must be provided to the potential residents and their families. So we look at the operation from this angle, and also from the angle of quality of care. Well, when you conduct your inspection, you try to find if there are irregularities on health services, recruitment of people. But from a wider angle, we have to understand that these RCHEs are facing operational difficulties. If they flout the rules, of course, you may have to consider prosecution, but you have to consider why and the reasons behind such irregularities. You do not just impose penalties, give them a penalty ticket or summons, and then punish them. And then what then? You must try to learn from the mistakes to see if there's any systemic problems, because you rely on these private RCHEs to provide care to the elderly. But the inspections are mainly about detecting irregularities. That's okay, but you should also try to learn from their failures. Director, would you consider this suggestion? This suggestion from Mr. Wong. When we conduct inspections, we would issue warning letters if irregularities are detected. We also conduct prosecution or take prosecution actions. The main problems are shortage of manpower, improper management of medicines, and improper admission and discharge procedures. Mainly these are due to manpower problems, is a shortage of manpower or falsification of employees' records, and they sometimes fail to comply with the directions given by the SWD under Section 19 of the Ordinance. In terms of medicine management, we did in the past engage some pharmacists to teach them to properly handle medicine. And there are seminars and workshops to provide training on the proper handling of medicines and dispensing of medicines. And if they falsify employees' records, we will pay particular attention to this. The inspections are surprise visits so that we make sure that the RCHEs provide or employ sufficient workers to provide good and proper care to the elderly residents. Please also consider Mr. Wong's suggestions. I'm done. What about other members? Mr. Alan Leung, on inspections, I would like to refer members to 4.33c. The licensing office has set a target of conducting one non-office hour inspection for each private RCHE every year. In 2013-14, the licensing office conducted 582 such inspections on average. It was able to meet its target. However, Audit noted that during the year, non-office hour inspections had not been conducted for 132 private RCHEs in operation. How can you account for this, Director? Director, on the number of inspections and target as set out in this report, on the whole, we were able to meet the target. We have exceeded the targeted number. As for this non-office hour inspection target, there's room for improvement. Under the requirement, we need to conduct non-office hours inspection on a surprise visit basis. In the past, we did this on a risk basis. For some risky RCHEs, we were able to achieve the target. But for less risky RCHEs, we were unable to meet the minimum target. So we need to strike the balance. We would like to reach the target even for non-risky RCHEs. Is it because there are manpower people? The manpower section is not doing this outside office hours? Well, we have actually exceeded the target in terms of certain RCHEs. Here we're talking about non-office hour inspections. We have exceeded the target in respect of some of the RCHEs. In the past, we did it on the basis of a risk assessment. That is to say, you only inspected problematic RCHEs. Well, the frequency is higher than that for non-risky RCHEs. The administration is encouraging private property developers to provide private RCHE premises on a concessionary premium. It was launched in July 2013, but so far not one has been commissioned to accept elderly residents. in October 2014, the scheme will be reviewed as set out in this report. What is the progress of the review? Why was there no review in the past 11 years? You announced the scheme, no one took up the offer. You thought that would be good enough for you to give an account of this, and then that's all. Well, that's a more general question on policy, Secretary. Maybe I can ask this director to elaborate, to explain first. It's not that no one came forward. In 2010, there was a case, and the Lands Department signed an agreement with that party. The location was Tuen Mun. According to the agreement, the RCHE would have to be commissioned before in the middle of 2017. For these concessionary premium cases, we're talking about private RCHE. If a private developer is willing to provide a private RCHE within a development, then the premium for that RCHE would get a concession. The prices would be for the private market. As I've explained, in the private market, there are vacant RCHE prices, and we are trying hard to utilize them to the fullest. There was one successful case under the concession scheme, but we have not been actively promoting this because the prices will be for private market, and in the private market at the moment there is a surplus. So you are going to review this for what has happened in the past 11 years. This will be the first review so far. Do you have a timetable for completing this review, and what's the direction to take? Well, since we're talking about private places, so the direction of the review will be the rationale of maintaining this scheme. Is it worth the effort, or can we replace it by something about quality enhancement? Here, you do not mandate that the RCHE, the private RCHE, must be for non-profit making RCHE. So in the past 11 years, there was only one interested property developer expressing interest in doing so. Have you looked into the reason why? Maybe to the developers, this is not an attractive scheme. Maybe the chairman can help us find an answer. Many sites are subject to lease modifications, and the development may be a big one. If you can do something during the lease modification process, or we'll be able to provide places for some 30,000 elderly residents. But it's a pity that in the past 11 years, very little was achieved, and it was not taken up. Every year, there are many projects involving lease modifications. So we should give it a push. Maybe we can include this in our recommendations. I hope the review can be completed very soon, and I hope the government will try to understand, try to get to know why the developers are not so interested. There was some expectation, but we didn't achieve what we set out to achieve. We would like to know the reasons.
And I want to address page 59, table 3. as you all know, in terms of RCS services, the government is putting in $340 million per year, but $210 million is going to CSSA recipients. I'm talking about the 25,000 people, and a lot of them are still waiting on the central waiting list. But when you look at Table 3, it's obvious that for this, from the second column from the right, for those who are not participating in the scheme, in terms of healthcare staff and the average floor space of each occupant, all these are very different from the subvented RCHEs. Sometimes we hear about very sad news that some of these elderly people are being tortured, and the reason is very clear. It's not rocket science. When you look at the subsidy provided by the government, when you look at the direct costs, it's between $7,900 and $15,600 per month. But when you look at CSSA, the average amount received is $6,953, which is less than $7,000. So adjustments would have to be made. So what I want to know is, especially as the licensing organization, how does the Social Welfare Department ensure that these elders who are receiving around $7,000 per month can afford private RCHEs without having their lives threatened? You are granting the licenses. What has been done on behalf of the welfare of these elders to ensure that they are at least receiving acceptable services? Director, this is actually related to what Raymond Wong said. Yes, it's related. Ensuring the quality of RCHEs for elders is something we must ensure in our inspections and checks. We have requirements with regards to manpower and floor space, and we sometimes receive complaints, and we treat each very seriously, and we would ensure that the welfare of the elders are safeguarded. And back to the issue on CSSA, the latest, the average amount received is $7,158, and a lot of people thought that we are giving them a sum of money so that they can enter RCHEs, but that's not the case. We would assess the needs of these elders and see how much money is needed. For those with poor health, for example, elders with disabilities, the submitted amount will be higher. So basically, we would assess the need levels. As I mentioned, Hong Kong has its unique environment. Some elders might not actually require RCHE services, and with the CSSA payment is not for them to pay for RCHEs, and some elders chose to enter RCHEs even though they have no need to do so. And as the Secretary mentioned, we have a CSS voucher scheme, CCS voucher scheme, and with this scheme, hopefully we can inject some new energy for the market, and with more suppliers, service providers, more resources can be put in to enhance the overall service quality. So we are trying to improve the quality of the board places. For those who are not participating in this scheme, we have the voucher scheme. So overall, we are hoping to enhance the quality of services out on the market. And for cases of torture or cases in which, or life-threatening cases, we will certainly monitor the cases and follow up on any complaints received. Will you step up monitoring of these RCHEs? I think Mr. Leung asked a very good question. You inspected 500 RCHEs. Are you going? Which RCHEs will you inspect more regularly? For non-bought places, our requirements are higher. Our target is higher. As part of our risk management, the actual number of inspections actually exceeded the required number. For RCHEs which has received complaints, we will make more inspections. Basically, for high-risk RCHEs, we'll make more inspections. For CSSA RCHEs, will you make more inspections? Is there any arrangement like that? For CSSA receiving elders, they're distributed over different RCHEs. For private RCHEs, we will make more inspections. Chairman, according to the audited results, you are focusing your energy on 424 private RCHEs. They are profit-making, and they are not participating in the enhancement scheme. When you look at 4.2 and 4.3, you can see that 26% have met the mark, are vacant. So non-CSSA recipients will avoid these 124 private DCHEs. That's the reality. I think we all remember that when we amended the RCHE ordinance recently, we had some doubts. If the statutory requirement is too high, the elders who are currently staying in these 424 RCHEs would be forced out, and they will have nowhere to stay. So from a cost-effectiveness perspective, we have $100 million every year. Of course, as the director said, they are not directly used for them to stay in RCHEs. But for elders who cannot wait for subsidized or subvented RCHEs, they have no choice but to look to private RCHEs. You may say they are somewhat forced. They have no option. And at the same time, those private RCHEs can only also have resource restraints. A lot of members understand this problem, and yet we have doubts because we don't want to force these elders out. And C.Y. Leung said the elders should have a place to stay, and to fulfill that, we have to do something. The director mentioned 4 times today that there will be extra places. The number will be up to 1,500 extra community service places. But this is still inadequate, and this would not help the elders who had made such important contributions to Hong Kong before. And after this open hearing, we will write our reports. Would you have better news to share with us so that that can be mentioned in our PAC report? Chairman, as I mentioned this morning, for the current term administration, elderly care work is one of our 4 highlights of the administration. We have 4 highlight areas: environmental protection, poverty and alleviation, elderly care, and these we have put into action. And on elderly care, we are spending $6.2 billion in elderly care services. Does it include CSSA? No. I'm just talking about elderly residential and community care services. Social security is another issue. That's more than $10 billion. I'm just talking about elderly services. The audit report is very inspiring, and the timing is ideal. The Elderly Commission has kickstarted its work in terms of planning, and their report has been shared with members of the PAC, and they have considered different things. So what else can we do in terms of care places? We have a multi-pronged approach. We will continue to buy quality services. A1 space in urban areas, the average floor prices exceeds $11,000, and we also have to enhance the hardware. And where do we get our land? We cannot compete with government land. So that's why we would make use of the land scheme for NGOs, and that's new thinking on our part. And we have injected over $10 billion to the lotteries fund. We anticipate that the entire program, which covers 62 schemes, we have 9,000 places total for the elders, 7,000 in care homes and 2,000 in service places. And rehab work is also very important. Out of these 9,000 care places, in the next 5 years, we have money under the lotteries fund. And once the scheme is out, we can alleviate the pressure. Of course, we cannot completely solve the problem, but in terms of implementing aging in place, we would execute the money follows the user approach, and we will be able to provide grants and subsidies in a more flexible manner in order to enhance the living quality of elders. We also have an elders carers assistance scheme. The assistance level is $2,000. If elders have full-time carers who are family members, they would be given $2,000 each, and the goal is to provide better care for elders, and so that they don't have to enter hospitals. We are starting to see results. We wouldn't encourage elders to enter care homes from day one, but of course the road is still very long. We have to work on the hardware, software, and as the report mentioned, we should not waste any of these care places. We should seek to maximize the available places. And we have a holistic plan on elderly care services. Of course, I cannot use the word solve because our population is aging, but we will try to alleviate the situation. but please understand our constraints and challenges, because we have to respect the wishes of the elders. So we have to introduce new thinking. But as the chairman said, we should also respect the feelings of the elders and not force them into doing anything. And we should seek to be more flexible in the future. And the waiting times, if we are not flexible, the waiting times might be very long, and up to 7 or 8 years. We don't want to massage, so to speak, the figures. We want to be faithful and frank. So and we will do our best to satisfy the needs of the elders. If I'm an elder, I should be very happy to hear what you said. But you said that the elderly commission they have started a study 2 years ago, but 18,000 elders have passed away during this time. After the handover, according to Mr. Tong Chi-hua, elders should lead good lives and have a place to stay. And over 14 years, we only saw an 8% growth. Over 14 years, there is a 20% growth. So this is really hard to accept. And in terms of their living environment, if they require services or they have to be hospitalized, $2,000 is useless. I think their children or family would prefer the government to provide a comfortable place for their parents, and you should provide care homes and hospital services for all the elders in need. This is not reflected in the report. We don't have enough hardware for Mr. Paul Chan. He has secured a lot of land the last 2 years, and he has secured a lot of land for RCHEs. The youngsters might have bargaining power politically, but our elders might not have the passion or energy to bargain for things from the government. We do have land. The problem is to secure the land. If we have so much land for public housing, you mentioned 4 pillars. Elderly care is one of them. Why couldn't you secure land for elderly care? Why could Mr. Paul Chan secure the land for other things? Well, perhaps I will let Ellen Leung continue. Well, my impression is that all this sounds very grand, but I do not feel the government's commitment or care towards the elderly. A lot of the elders could not even wait for the services. Perhaps can you address the issue? Not necessarily today, but maybe you can give more later on. When can we provide services to these 30,000 elders as soon as possible? In our report, I will mention that the purpose of this report is to pinpoint this social issue. We cannot afford to wait for another 17 years. We've had 11 meetings at the Legislative Council. So I hope we all do something for these elders and give and offer the services they deserve.
And then I ask you to sum up. I know the Secretary is fully aware that 26,000 places are subvented and 25,700 are similar. Basically, the elderly have this $7,159, an increase of $200. They take the money and pay for the private residential care homes. I hope the Secretary will face the music. If you look at Table 3, in terms of space, manning ratio, nurses and carers, there is a substantial gap between subvented places and private homes. Now, with the passage of the amendment bill, the Residential Care Homes Amendment Bill, into law, I hope more time can be given to the administration to deal with this problem. We don't want 25,700 elderly, or at least a substantial part of them, will be rendered homeless, and they will have to sleep in the streets. I hope that with regard to Report 63, the administration will focus once again on the substantial inadequacy of residential care service for the elderly. C.Y. Leung should be reminded of the promises he has made. Mr. Chairman, in fact, I want to point out one more thing. That's about inspection. The Ombudsman's Office had a report, March 2012. Now, the efficiency enhancement unit was also mentioned. In report number 38, that was also mentioned, and that was there was inadequate inspection. That was a matter of criticism. Once again, that is also criticized by the Commission of Audit. I don't think you have anything to add. I just want to put it on record. Inadequacy of inspection is not for the first time when it is unnerved. It was mentioned in report number 38. Within 11 years, there has been no substantial improvement. I hope I can put it on record, and when we conduct our indoor discussion, we will pay attention to that. I don't know whether the Secretary or the Director have anything to add. I have no further questions. Chairman, if I may address this, you mentioned that in terms of land, the Development Bureau is able to get a lot of land. Let me reiterate this point. The private land for welfare purpose is a new idea. It is all on farmland. It is redevelopment in situ. It will be very fast. If you want to get unformed land, that will take a lot of time. Say you need to provide the utilities. As for new items, you have to consult the district council. There will be a lot of district voices. But we use the existing land. And now the private sector, the business sector are afraid that that will affect the property price. When we want to build a home for the elderly, they really don't, private developers really don't want to see that because there may always be ambulance going in and out. There are about 10,000 or so these places which will be provided. They are already doing that. They are already providing a service. They just adding the a few more floors. And that's the point, and there will be less objection. That's from the political angle. We have to work harder, very much harder. We still have a lot of work. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I fully support you, in particular your spirit. Whether you have many schemes, but in the forecast, 1 in 4 will be an elderly in the future. And many elderly people need our care, need our support, need our service. We're in the same boat. We support your view, but we want to raise it with the community that we face a serious problem in respect of caring for the elderly. We support you getting more resources. The department doesn't have enough manpower. Please try to help, and so that they can do the job they have to. All right, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, David.